The next thing we want to do is I'm going to run kind of a detail along the side here, and this is that traveling shrink. And what it'll let you do is it'll let you take crown out, but it'll also let you define a feature. So if you want to put a body line or something in, it'll let you do that by hand without having to roll it. And I'm going to switch to a little bit smaller hammer for this one. I'm establishing the depth that I want to go to, and then I'm inclining the panel. If you're holding the dolly in your hand, once you establish your initial depth, by rotating it around the bulge to an angle, you can control how quickly or how slowly it shrinks down. If you keep it at a pretty steep angle and do a lot of close hits, it'll take that panel and it crushes kind of a crescent shape and really pushes it down in. If you flatten it back out, then it concentrates it more over a larger area, and there's less movement in the panel, so it tapers off. So you can actually start here and go pretty deep at the beginning, and then kind of taper off gradually, or taper off and then come back down in and get heavy on the other side. It just all depends on what particular shape you want to put in there. Okay, so I got the depression started where I want it. I'm going to try and get a transition off of this headlight feature and then kind of run up the fender with it. So I've got kind of the depth that I want to go to. So now I'm going to kind of rotate the panel so that it's sitting more on this front side here. The back side should be just touching on the bottom of the trailing edge, and then the front side actually moves past the edge here, and when you hit it, it takes that crescent shape and pushes it down. And then as you travel along, it's crushing down this way and forcing the panel back into itself in the direction that you're opposite the direction that you're traveling. You can see that crescent shape, that smile shape. So I've got it fairly deep at this point. I can come back in here and deepen it up if I want to at any point. I can just come back to the beginning and add more shape to it, or I can chase the shape around a different area if I want to come around back here. Down by the headlight. I can do that. Okay, so I'm going to kind of come back this way, and I'm going to taper off as I get closer to the edge. And I'm gradually changing the angle that I'm holding the panel at, and I'm kind of lessening the intensity of the hammer blow. And I got a little bit of a rise here because I was pushing pretty good, so I can come back in here and level that I want. Okay. I'm going to kind of taper this back off. And you can go really slowly. You can go little teeny increments here and kind of sneak up on the shape that you want. Really getting an aggressive angle and burying into it is nice to get a lot of shape in quickly, but then it's more work to bring that surface back to level. And you have to keep in mind that you're gonna bring that to level without a lot of work. You're gonna push this edge of the shrunk area over to a little bit larger area. You can stay within this small footprint, but it's a lot more light hammer blows. You can switch down to a smaller crown to lessen the area that's affected. This other hammer has an in-between size. Back out into nothing. There. Now you can take this and flatten it out, or you can come in and define an edge and take the shrink in the opposite direction to flatten away from it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the smaller hammer that's got a really high crown edge, and I'm going to kind of chase in this edge because I want this kind of raised rib across here, and then I'll shrink this area, this high here, I'll shrink that back down into the panel and blend it out. This part's a little bit more like chasing, like you do in repoussé. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'm kind of facing it. So right now I'm kind of taking this edge and shrinking it back this way, directing all the material back into the bottom half. Okay, kind of getting that rim shape the way I want it. Okay. So now I've got that rib kind of established here. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink this area back down to flatten that transition and blend it down into what would be the wheel opening. I'm directing the hammer flows down, but also back in towards this initial depression. So I'm taking that, basically a tuck, and driving it back into the panel. If you hit away from you, you're going to run it off the edge and you'll lose more of the shape. You'll end up just kind of flattening it out. And you'll notice these aren't hammer blows or hard hammer blows. I got a really light hammer and I'm holding it way choked up. touching up little highs that were out on the edge. Okay, now you can see that ridge and that transition has been blended down into it. Didn't really do a lot of shrinking on this side, but the tuck that was formed along this edge shrunk back down in. The panel is effectively lowered and drawn back in towards the center. You can do the same thing on this side if you wanted. Even on something like this where you have a reverse kind of bent in, you can come back in and dress it. Shrinking down this high spot here. This is like the smaller donut dolly. This guy, the 1.5 inch, is really good at is coming in and picking a specific spot where you've got a little high and you want to knock it down and drop it in there behind it and shrink, and it confines it to a pretty small area. The larger one obviously has a bigger footprint, so it's influencing more material. Again, this would be a lot easier to use on a panel in place because you don't have the forces jarring it around as much.